Hi everyone, I'm Ava and today I wanted to talk to you about 8 Dutch words that are just not easily or straightforwardly translatable into English. I've come across these words when interacting with Dutch people and of course just whenever I would visit here, and now that I live here, I've really gotten to know these words pretty well. And each time I hear one of these words, I think to myself, oh my god, we really just need them in English. Now, before I go into the list, I want to say that even though I'm a linguist, I've mentioned this a couple of times, I am no expert on translating words from Dutch to English. So I'm going to call in an expert, the Vandalen Dictionary, which I've heard is a pretty reputable source. So we're going to, for fun, translate these words in Vandalen, and I will share the translation for you. I'll put up a little screenshot of what I find, and we're going to see how we feel about it. We're together going to discuss whether these translations are satisfactory or whether these words are really just too difficult, even for Vandalen. All right, so let's get into it. The first word that I want to talk about today is jarig. That is a word you would use for someone whose birthday it is. The word for birthday in Dutch is verjaardag, and it has the word jaar in it, which means year. And when it's someone's birthday, you say they are jarig. They are birthday. That is how I would do the literal English translation. You know, it sounds pretty weird. On my birthday, people have often asked me if I feel jarig. And initially, of course, I was like, are they asking me if I feel birthday? What does that even mean? And, you know, I kind of figured that they were asking me if I feel like it's my birthday, but we don't really ask people that in English. Like, I don't go around on people's birthdays asking them, hey, do you feel like it's your birthday? Because that kind of implies that they could feel like it's not their birthday. I don't know, but in Dutch, it's a really normal thing to say to someone. Okay, so let's see what Vandalen has to say about this. I'm looking at my notes here, and it seems like Vandalen was also clearly struggling with this, because they left out the translation part and they simply gave us some examples of how jarig would be used in a sentence or a phrase. So the first example that they give is the jarige Joop of Jet, and that either means the birthday boy or the birthday girl. Jet and Joop are just Dutch names, I'm guessing, and they're common enough, so it's just like saying Joe, the birthday girl, birthday boy. I really need to talk to my girlfriend about this because every year she calls me the jarige Joop. And now I've discovered that is what you would use to refer to a boy. I feel like we need to talk. Well, the other translation that is given by Vandalen is for the sentence, Fred is vandaag jarig. And the translation they give for this is, it is Fred's birthday today. Now, Dutch people watching this, I feel like there is a difference between saying, het is Fred's verjaardag vandaag and Fred is jarig vandaag. What do you think? Because I feel like it can be your birthday and you cannot feel like it's your birthday. Yeah, what do you think about that? Because I feel like it means that it's Fred's birthday today when you say he is jarig, but maybe it's not quite right. Let me know. And before I close this part out, I wanted to talk about the final sentence that Vandalen gives as an example, which is, dan ben je nog niet jarig. And I thought to myself, maybe the literal translation of this is pretty close to the meaning, which I thought would be something like, well, then it's not quite your birthday today. And I wouldn't know what that would mean, but the translation that we have from Vandalen is, it won't be the happiest day of your life. Well, when I read this, I thought, isn't that a little extreme? I mean, your birthday is a nice day. I like it. I like my birthday quite a lot, but is it the happiest day of my life? So I was, of course, a bit confused when I read this translation. So I went to my girlfriend, who is my Dutch consultant, and also other people, but her. And then I was like, what is going on here? And she told me that it is an idiom. And then all was good again in the world because you can't directly translate an idiom. That's just what it means. Anyway, moving on to the next item. Number 2, voorpret. If I literally translate voorpret, because apparently literally translating things is what I do, you get before joy. Before joy doesn't give you very much of an insight into what the word means, but in this case, it kind of does. The first time I encountered this word was when my partner and I were talking about going on a trip, and she says that she has a lot of voorpret. And I was like, oh, you're looking forward to the trip. And she's like, that just sounds like an understatement. And I guess she wasn't alone in this, because since then I've heard many Dutch people, especially in the context of holidays or going on a trip, talk about this, and we'll be speaking English and they'll just say, yeah, you know, I have a lot of voorpret. Silence. And then they struggle and they think about how they're going to translate this word. And I jokingly always respond with, oh yeah, the before joy of a trip. And that is the best we could come up with. So let's see what our friend Vandala has to contribute to our struggles. Vandala translates this as pleasurable anticipation. I don't know if that sounds fun or like work. I'm pleasurably anticipating this trip. It sounds very formal that I have to put on my fake, mostly American British accent. Like pleasurable anticipation. I would never say that before going on a trip. Like, are you looking forward to your trip? I am pleasurably anticipating it. That would never happen, especially not in the US. We're quite some informal people. Number 3 on this list is borrel. Now this word to me has two meanings. One that just means drink, and the other that means going to happy hour, and then there's drinks and there's food, and it's like this whole thing around the drinks. I came across the first meaning of the word borrel, where it means drink, in a sentence that we learned in our Dutch class, which was, ik heb een borrel te veel gehad. I've had one too many to drink. So that is how I know the drink meaning of borrel, and then I also know the other meaning of borrel, where it is really just a social thing with more than just the drinks, honestly through work and other settings. And I would even say it's one of the first words that an international person who doesn't really speak very much Dutch might encounter in a work setting, because I can imagine at work that people would just say, hey, we're gonna have a borrel on Friday, or we're gonna have a borrel in the evening, because there isn't quite the English translation for it. So the one translation for borrel that I think comes quite close, but in my opinion, not quite there yet, is happy hour. In the US, happy hour is indeed between the hours of 4 and 7, but usually they're drink specials, meaning the drinks are cheaper and maybe some of the food is cheaper. But to me, it isn't quite the same as borrel, because when I think of a borrel, I also think of borrelhapjes. And indeed, it's in that late afternoon period during the day, but at the same time, I feel like it doesn't include those drink specials that you would maybe in a happy hour. So to me, happy hour comes close, but not quite there. Now let's see what Vandala has to say about this. Interesting. Vandala translates this just as drink. So we don't have the second meaning of borrel there. Well, let me know if you find that satisfactory. Do you think we should also have a second related meaning of borrel, where it means to have food and snacks and pleasurable company? Number 4 on this list is uitwaaien. If I were to explain this word to an American, I would start by describing the situation in which you might use the word. So I would say, you know, imagine that you're going to the beach in the winter, and then the American would already look at me like I was crazy, because Americans do not go to the beach in the winter. Dutch people watching this, it is a you thing. It is a Dutch person thing. Okay, so I would maybe say, you know, when a Dutch person goes to the beach in the winter, they go to the beach to get winded. I couldn't tell you what that means, because it sounds really very strange in English. But in Dutch, it sounds more normal. You can say, going to the beach om uit te waaien, to, well, get winded. But I think it means something like to clear my head with the wonderful wind and feel completely blown away, or something like that. So clearly, with a whole cultural aspect around this word, I feel like in English there isn't a direct translation, and I've definitely heard Dutch people use this word in English. That goes for all of the words on this list. If I've heard Dutch people speaking English use this Dutch word over and over again, and we struggled to come up with a translation, that's when I thought about putting them on this list. Yeah, I have heard Dutch people use these words in the wild. Right, so Vandala translates uitwaaien as blown out or be blown out. Could you imagine saying this in English to an English-speaking person? Oh yes, I would like to go to the beach to get blown out. It sounds like you're really blowing out your hair, like, you know, with a hair dryer. It really doesn't have that meaning that you can feel completely winded. So I use the word winded and not blown out. But I mean, clearly, Vandala is also struggling. This is a difficult to translate word. Number 5 and number 6. I feel like these two words go together, so I'm going to put them together. And they are uitbuiken and natafelen. Non-Dutch people watching this, I would translate these two words as belly out and after table. Yes, I know, it doesn't make any sense. So to explain these words, just imagine a time when you would stuff your face. Maybe at Thanksgiving dinner. No wait, too American. Maybe at Christmas dinner or something, and you're eating a lot of food and you're really very stuffed. And so you need to belly out. Now, I really had to crack up the first time I heard a Dutch person say this in English. They were like, I don't know what it is in English, but in Dutch I would say, I really need to belly out right about now. And I was like, okay. And then it wasn't just one Dutch person, it was another Dutch person and another Dutch person, and they all just wanted to belly out. And I had to look this word up, and that's when I learned uitbuiken. It just means that if you've had too much to eat, I guess in English we would say something like, you wanna unzip your pants? Well, they would loosen up their bellies? Like I said, I'm no expert, and also I feel like if there isn't a straightforward translation, we should just adopt uitbuiken into English. Like I have. I've totally adopted uitbuiken into English. I mean, all of these words. I use them just now in everyday English. I even used them when I was living in the States, and I just taught people a little bit of Dutch because it was fun. And these words are so creative. Like belly out, really? Speaking of creative, natafelen is also very creative. It's just after you've eaten a lot of food, you know that feeling when you just want to cozily sit at the table and just enjoy the feeling of being stuffed with food? That is natafelen. Okay, so vandalen. Yeah, this was the word that vandalen just couldn't translate. Uitbuiken, it was too much of a challenge for vandalen. It gave up. There is no translation in vandalen for uitbuiken. So I guess we're stuck with belly out. As for natafelen, looks like that's translated as linger at the table. But I got the sense that you need to linger at the table after you've eaten a lot of food with natafelen. So you can linger at the table in English after doing your homework, but I don't know if you would use the Dutch word natafelen for it. Let me know what you think. Number 7 on this list is gunnen. Now this is the word I would say my partner and I have struggled with the most to translate accurately into English, because when she first told me this, it was in regards to a friend who was up for a job, and she says, oh my god, this is a really great friend, I really gun him the job. And you know, we had a whole conversation about what she could have said there. And I was convinced that all she was trying to say was, I really hope he gets the job. But apparently that's not the case, because she insisted that he had to have some kind of positive quality, like it's because he's a nice person or because he's worked so hard, and that is why I gun him the job. So it's not just that she hopes that he gets the job, it's because there's something positive about this person. And that's when I realized that there really is a difference in English, because I can't really say I hope that he gets a job and have it always mean positive. To give an example of that, I could say I hope he gets the job, or I hope he gets promoted so that I can take his job. That's really negative, but I don't know if you can use gunnen in that context. So to me, once I got that difference, I really saw that it was difficult to translate into English. Let's see if vandalen can help us out. Aha! Vandalen translates this as grant. That is interesting, but I feel like maybe there still is a difference, because if I say I gun him the job, in English that would be I grant him the job if we're translating it as grant, but that would mean that I would have to give him the job, which I obviously don't. So, okay, I think there is a difference here. It's not quite grant, but let me know, because I really cannot emphasize how much of a non-expert I am in this case. I am just someone who uses Dutch words freely in English, and I hope I get them right. And finally, the last word on this list. I don't think you guys can guess what number 8 is. It's a really difficult word, it's not that frequent, and maybe I'm just weird for using it. But what I can say is that it is a gezellig word. You knew I was gonna talk about this. You probably went through this list and you thought to yourself, when is she gonna talk about gezellig? Because this is another one of those words that even people who don't speak Dutch know when they come to the Netherlands. I've met international students who have studied in the Netherlands, and I met them abroad, so like in Greece or something. And they've told me that they don't speak Dutch, but they can tell when someone is Dutch in Greece because they will hear the word gezellig around, like, oh, it is so gezellig here. And that's how they know that person is Dutch. That's how common the word is. But this very common word is notoriously difficult to straightforwardly translate into English. The translation that I've heard most often is cozy, but I think we all know that misses the mark. So for people who are encountering gezellig for the first time, this word means cozy, yes, in some cases, but it could also mean pleasant, nice. It is just all the wonderful things in one word that Dutch people can just use in different contexts. The one example that comes to mind where maybe cozy and gezellig are a little different is maybe when I think of the weather. So I've asked some Dutch people what they think about gezellige weer, and they say it's not the most common. And in English, I could say it's cozy weather, and that means that, it's kind of weather that makes me want to curl up and be cozy. I know it's not really referring to the weather, but kind of, a little bit. But in Dutch, if you want to talk about the weather really isn't gezellig often. The weather is lekker. It's tasty weather. That makes more sense, right? You Dutch folk, you are so creative with this. I love it. That is why we need these words in English. But anyway, for gezellig, let us just see what Vandala has to say. I actually really like Vandala's translation of this. So they've divided this into two categories. So when you use gezellig for a person, they can be pleasant and sociable and enjoyable. And when you use gezellig for a room, that is the second case. It's cozy and pleasant and nice. So I really like this distinction between people and rooms because I really think that's the case. So this time I actually think I really learned something about how you can describe gezellig to non-speakers of Dutch, because I know people couldn't really describe gezellig to me. I've just heard it used in all the contexts and then I had to figure it out from there. But I'm gonna really use this translation from now on. I like it. Nice work, Vandala. So those are my 8 words that I think are not straightforwardly translatable into English, but I'm sure this is not an exhaustive list. Let me know if I've left anything out, and let me know what you think about these words and how you would translate them and what your experience with these words have been.